अच्छे लग रहे हो तुम माशाल्लाह, चमक रहे हो, साथ चमक रहे हो तुम, यू आर शाइनिंग टुडे।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو شهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليه، من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار، في من تمن عليه وادخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، صل على محمد وآل محمد وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عامي هذا وفي كل عام، واغفر لي تلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا رحمن يا علام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره، وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي وصفحك عن ظلمي وسترك على قبيح عملي وحلمك عن كثير جرمي. عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلما أرى مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك عليه، يا ربي إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي وأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن اليد تطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا عاصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه، فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة منقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى، وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم صل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم المم به شعثنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغن به عائلنا واقض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به يسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا. يا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين، اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا، واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم، وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق. آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله، وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا، فصل على محمد وآله، وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله، وبضر تكشفه، ونصر تعزه، وسلطان حق تظهره، ورحمة منك تجللناها، وعافية منك تلبسناها، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فأدخلنا، وفي عليين فارفعنا، وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا، ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا، ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأخدمنا، ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فأطعمنا، ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا، وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا، وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا، وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا، وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا، وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا، وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا، ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا، ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا، وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا، ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا، ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت، بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم، من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل، أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم، المشكور سعيهم، المغفور ذنوبهم، المكفر عن سيئاتهم، وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية، وتوسع في رزقي، وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل به غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان، أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولقب لي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم أغن كل فقير، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير.
بار دیگر نعرہ صلوات۔ حضرت امام حسن علیہ السلام کی ولادت کے موقع پہ چند اشعار آپ لوگوں کی سماعتوں کو نظر کرنے جا رہا ہوں۔ جو چاہتے ہیں خیر سے ہر شر جدا کریں، لے کر خدا کا نام حسن کی ثنا کریں۔ جو چاہتے ہیں خیر سے ہر شر جدا کریں، لے کر خدا کا نام حسن کی ثنا کریں۔ واجب ہے اہل شام پہ صلح حسن کے بعد، تاج شہی کو بھیک کا کاسا کہا کریں۔ تقدیر اس کو کہتی ہے تحریر مجتبی، جس کے قلم سے لوح و قلم مشورہ کریں۔ شبر دعائیں کرتے تھے قاسم کا ہو ظہور، زینب یہ چاہتی ہیں کہ حسن کربلا کریں۔ سمجھو حسن کو ماننے والے غلام ہیں، باغ فدق سے بات کی جو ابتدا کریں۔ سمجھو حسن کے ماننے والے غلام ہیں، باغ فدق سے بات کی جو ابتدا کریں۔ حسرت ہے ہو امام زمان آپ کا ظہور، ہم جنت البقیع میں پرسا ادا کریں۔ حسرت ہے ہو امام زمان آپ کا ظہور، ہم جنت البقیع میں پرسا ادا کریں۔ مدح حسن کو آئے تطہیر جان کر، اکبر درود اول و آخر پڑھا کریں۔ مدح حسن کو آیا تطہیر جان کر، اکبر درود اول و آخر پڑھا کریں۔ بار دیگر نعرہ صلوات۔
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتلهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صلوات الله. Before I start today's presentation and probably tomorrow's presentation as well, preparing for these 2 nights, I hear and prepare a lot of things that is easy to speak on the minbar, but it's not easy to practice. Preaching is always easier than practice. There is an ayat of the Quran in Surah Al-Saf that says, كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. That one of the greatest things that is hateful عِنْدَ Allah, close to Allah, is أَن تَقُولُوا, something that you say, مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ, that you do not do. There are a lot of things that I struggle, and in preparing, I sort of address myself in this struggle, but that I also then partake and say maybe we all struggle, and so sharing that item, but I do not want that these concepts to be judged, that I'm talking, that these are all things that I do. I'm struggling in these effects as well. And so take it as a transmission from me, but not as a preaching, because there are many things that I struggle, and I take this as a lesson for me as well. So inshallah today, and especially tomorrow, there are things that I will say that in Urdu you call sakht, maybe difficult, but it is only the way where we can inshallah build ourselves. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I think earlier this year, when we spoke about Janab Fatima, we recited the Surah Al-Kawthar and said how Bibi Fatima is sort of the abundance of what was given to the Prophet. In the last verse of this surah, Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar, Allah makes a promise in this surah to the Prophet that whoever is calling you abtar, thy insulter, is the one who is abtar. And this is because in the life of the Prophet was blessed with sons, but the sons never lived. And therefore the enemies of the Prophet used to call him abtar. Abtar means that the lineage is amputated or cut off, and so he becomes tailless. if you really take not only that the lineage, but they were insulting him that he will only be here for a few years. If his message is amputated by his family being amputated, then there is nothing to worry. This will sort of end here and will not continue. So in both cases, they were feeling, the enemies of Islam were feeling secure, so to speak, in two ways. One is that the message would be without posterity, and the family of the Prophet would be without posterity. Both of those which Allah promised and kept His promise, and we have that today. The message is still there, which was protected in ways that were unimaginable by the enemies, and the posterity of the Sayyids are still there, as much as it is unimaginable how many they killed, and still they're there. And God bless them. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So on this particular ayah in Sahih al-Bukhari, it's not Sahih but it's named Sahih. In Sahih al-Bukhari, it is said that the Prophet said, Kawthar is a stream of super excellence, exclusively belonging to me, meaning to the prophets. Only the righteous believers among my followers will be allowed to drink from it. Ali alayhi salam shall distribute the water from it to them. On the day of judgment, I will see some of my companions driven like cattle away from Kawthar. It will be announced to me that they are those who, after my departure from the world, deviated from the true religion and introduced innovations based on conjecture to corrupt the faith. All this we kind of know. And after this incident, Imam Ali alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad, was known and referred to by the companions as Saqi al-Kawthar. But let us understand then, Kawthar means this particular stream of abundance that will be in Jannah, but it also means abundance of descendants. In one way, the first Imam is the Saqi al-Kawthar, meaning he will be the person distributing this water which will satisfy the thirst of the people, or it will satisfy the thirst to the case where we read in Dua Nudba that this thirst, once satisfied, is not going to create thirst. So there will not be any thirst. He is not only the Saqi of Kawthar there, but he is also the father of the children of the prophets, meaning he is the father of the abundance of the descendants that the Prophet got. Means he is the distributor of the abundance for us in terms of the thirst that we have for the religion and the liqa of Allah in this world, as he is the Saqi al-Kawthar in the hereafter. This is Imam Ali alayhi salam. Awesome. But when it comes to breaking this promise, meaning not breaking as in the broken promise, but in delivering this promise, the first sign of the deliverance, or the first maybe star of the deliverance, or the first ray of the deliverance, is the birth of Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Since his birth is the continuation of the Sa'adat after the marriage of Bibi Fatima and Imam Ali. But now comes the view that we have about Imam Hasan alayhi salam. There are two grandsons of the prophets, and honestly we don't treat them the same way. they have been treated equally by the prophets. If we take their existence and where they come from, they are from the same Nur. They are in the same way members of the Ahl al-Qisa as Imam al-Hussein is and Imam al-Hasan. They are equally in the party of Mubahila in an equal format. They are in an equal format in the revelation of the Surah Al-Atab. The Prophet used to treat them very equally. If there was any inequality, it would have been shown by him. The tradition of sitting with him on the pulpit is equally that of Imam Hasan as well as Imam Hussein. The tradition of them sitting on his shoulder while he was just sitting on his shoulder as he used to carry them is the same for both of them. The tradition of elongated prostration by the Prophet is found for Imam Hasan and for Imam al-Hussein. There is no difference in this case. And then there is this tradition that both have this title, the leader of the youths of paradise, Sayyid al-Shabab Ahlil Jannah. In fact, this tradition does not stop here. Most of the time when we recite, it stops here. But this tradition has a sentence after it where it says, and their father is better than them. The sequence of imamat has its own fadilat. And I'm saying this because we sometimes don't give Imam al-Hasan as the same preference as of Imam Hussein, and only because of the station that Imam Hussein has received, and rightly so, with his sacrifice in Karbala. But any nur of imamat being in that station would have done the same thing. But God chose in his wisdom to choose Hussein. But God also chose Hasan to be the Imam of Hussein and not the other way around. Right? The Imam Ali is the Imam of both. Imam Hasan is the Imam of Imam Hussein. And then Imam Hussein the Imam of all. But the treatment that we have to give, and this also appears to be the madhlumiyat of Imam al-Hasan, is, as we will talk about it a little bit, is more. So let's not increase that by not giving him the fadilat that he actually has in the eyes of God and in the eyes that God has provided him. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So these days, data analytics and behavior analytics is a huge thing. So I will bring our conversation to that and look at some of the things, or one of the things. One of the things that we tend to incline to, and it is our expectation and our norms that we sit, and it is true that the lineage of imamat has gone from Imam al-Hussein. But so has the lineage of imamat gone to Imam Ali, but we also call them sons of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is because of Janab Fatima, who is a ma'asuma. And the abundance has flowed through her. The only difference here is that Janab Fatima is a ma'asuma and the daughter of Imam Hasan is not a ma'asuma. However, she is also the mother of imams from the fifth imam onwards. Because the daughter of Imam Hasan was married to Imam Zainul Abidin that produced the fifth imam. So as equally as Al-Hussein is the father or the grandfather of fifth imam, so is Imam al-Hasan. That equality is also there. And so Imam al-Hasan is also the grandfather of all the imams, including the fifth imam, all the imams from the fifth imam, all the way to the Al-Qaim. And the unique thing here is this. The name of our second imam is Al-Hasan. The name of our 11th imam is also Al-Hasan. The kunniyat of our second imam is Abu Muhammad. the kunniyat of our 11th Imam is also Abu Muhammad. It is like Allah gave these names and kept it because these names are from Allah. That do not forget that Qaim, as much as he is the son of Al-Hussein, he is also the son of Al-Hasan alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And perhaps that is why the hadith that comes about our Qaim is that it doesn't say that the Qaim is going to be the son of Hussein. The Prophet's hadith is that the Al-Qaim is going to be from me, from Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Meaning that the sons of Fatima will have children, of which the last one will be Qaim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we celebrate on occasions where our imams are born, for they not only brought us the religion, opened our minds to know Allah more, or the right way, and to show us how to worship towards Sirat al-Mustaqim, which we inshallah cover tomorrow. In this format, though, we tend to create ideologies and our own sort of rules and regulations as human beings, which then are what causes problems in ourselves, because then we have our expectations and then there is the Islamic expectation. And what happens is our expectations and norms become so deeply ingrained onto us that we normalize it. Sometimes we don't realize the benefit of it, nor do we realize the harm of it. We just end up doing it. And then if you look at the stories of the Quran, they will surprise, and I will talk about some of it today. But if you talk about stories of the Quran, you will find that groups normalized their ways and their expectations or rules. And that is actually what caused their doom. They stood against prophets because they expected prophets to be in a certain way. And no, it was not that way that the prophet was sent. And Allah always tests people. Like we said, he tested Shaitan. Shaitan expected maybe the Khalifa of Allah to be in a certain way. Allah created Adam from dust, and he said, no way, this is dust, I'm not going to. But it was above his expectation. But he had already created an expectation that was hidden from the malakut. In the same way, nations in the Quran had expectations. How will the prophet come? Who should be the prophet? Should be a king, should be an angel, should be so-and-so. When the prophet came, gave them the message, we don't want the message. And those expectations are what we need to look into ourselves and say, what expectations do we have? And are they aligned with the deliverance that we have been promised by Al-Qaim? And therefore we have to question ourselves. If the Qaim comes, because that's why we are here to celebrate the Imam, and the Imam of our time is within us, when he comes in our presence, will we reject his ways? And why not? If people in the past were there and they rejected ways, and those are examples we have, what makes us special? Or is anything that makes us special? And we will answer, and I too, and that's why I'm saying it's unimaginable that the Imam comes and what, we reject him? No way. That is the normal answer we will receive from everyone, and it is expected. But communities surprised us in the past, and so we should be wary of that surprise. So let's look at Imam Hasan's life in this aspect. He passed through a young age, and let's look at the behavior in the people around that time first, and then we'll go to the next stage if I have time, but I do want to finish, because if I don't finish, my message will be lost. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He passed through a young age of being the darling of the Prophet, as we mentioned. The traditions that if you love Hasan, you love me. The traditions that Hasanu minni wa ana min al-Hasan. Same thing for Imam Hussein, but it doesn't come out from our mouths as much. He passed through a young age being the darling of the Prophet, and indeed no one could treat him any differently. Nobody would have the audacity to treat the family of the Prophet in the times of the Prophet in a different way. Why? Well, let's go to the why next. Then the treatment of his family after the death of the Prophet. He saw this. From the time of the death of the Prophet to Uthman. What happened, I do not want to go into that. We are very well aware. Some of the details we may not be aware, but the highlights of the huge atrocities that happened to the family of the Prophet is there. He was an Imam, meaning he was an Imam after, but he had that knowledge and he had that wisdom from the time of his birth. So he knew exactly what was coming. So it is not like Imam Hasan was not. He even challenged Abu Bakr on the pulpit just after the death of the Prophet, saying, "Get down from the pulpit of my father. It is not the pulpit of your father. Go and sit on the pulpit of your father." These are not things that we hear a lot. He had the same audacity as we think only Imam Hussein would have to go to Karbala. No, these Imams were of the same character. There is no weakness in any of them, in any aspect of any action. They are one nur. Kulluna Muhammad. Every one of them is Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But they flip-flopped. Not one of them flip-flopped. 120,000 flip-flopped. From what they heard in Ghadir to what they did after Saqifa. And what did they do after Saqifa? They not only recognized evil, they praised evil. They would write qasida of the evil. What is Sahih Bukhari? It is a qasida of the evilness on a portion where they do part of it by praising the Khulafa. How would you understand? These people are not, would you say, unintelligent people. They're intelligent people. They accepted the message. They accepted the Prophet. We sometimes regard to them, it was that era. Yes, but there were intelligent people in that era as well. But they changed. What made them change? It was this expectation of self-interest, that as self-interest is attacked, a human being can do massive changes that you would not expect. And then the masses coming to his father's door, saying, okay, injustice has been done, we want justice, we want you. They had no idea what they were going to get. They accepted his father, and then they killed him. This is the life of Imam Hasan, growing up. And now he takes the reins of Imamat and goes and wants to remove Muawiyah, because Muawiyah has sat in Sham by the Bani Umayyah, where he was set wrongly, and he wouldn't want to leave. What happened to him? His army, not once, but several times in that fight where he had to remove Muawiyah, betrayed him in treason. Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, brother of Abdullah ibn Abbas, takes what? Money. This money we speak about is not something we should just put it on the side. Oh, money doesn't affect me, it affects other people. No, it affects every one of us. If it is like taking shaitan out, saying, shaitan doesn't affect me, it will affect other people, but no, he affects every one of us. A million currency of that time, Ubaidullah turns. And Muawiyah uses this turn of one person and spreads the same turn across all the people that are chosen in Imam Hasan's army, and moves the army into a position of weakness, and makes the army itself, agents within the army, attack Imam Hasan, to the point that he was in a position to be assassinated. All this is being seen. These are people close to Imam. that now turn against the Imam and become people who now, what is the difference? Their expectation is Imam has to be in this way. I am seeing him in this way. Therefore, he is wrong, I am right. That is the scary part of our expectations. And so they attack the Imam, and the Imam writes what is an agreement with Muawiyah that is actually beneficial to Islam at that moment in time. Yes, it bought time, but it was beneficial to Islam in many aspects. Let me throw you our example. Just one example we have on the coming of the Qaim, and maybe a thought-provoking idea. And it affects me, as I said in the beginning of the lecture, that it affects me. It's a challenge within me as well. I would say it is. I'm not secure from that either. We are first generation, second generation, maybe third generation immigrants, right? First generation, I just came from somewhere, from Africa. My life was there. And there were challenges there that I look at now in a different aspect. But from other countries, we come from a country that, in Africa, for example, we were a minority. But in other countries, the people come from Iran, Pakistan, Afghan, or Arabs, you are majority of that country as well. So you come over here, and here we are now a minority. Everyone is a minority within ourselves. But we are of one religion. Let's say we are not talking about Shia Ithna Ashar or Shia in general coming here from different countries. We end up creating centers that are different, right? In Africa, we did not include a lot of Africans. We had this Khoja brown people centers, and not Africans, indigenous Africans used to come. And when they started becoming Shia, we won't go how they became, but when they started becoming Shia and coming to the centers, there was a feeling of, hey, you don't belong here. You have to go to your own mosque. They did not have a mosque, because the person that changed them to Shia was an alim, was a alim from India, the father of Sayyid Muhammad Rizwi. But there was that rejection, right? Some of them became sheikh, but they wouldn't get to recite. If there was no sheikh of our skin to recite in front, they would not get it. And I'm saying this publicly because there was that feeling. They would not get to lead the salah. The question comes here. We also have created a center, but think about Imam coming tomorrow. Which center is he going to be in? Here, he lands in North America, let's say, which is not what the hadith says, but let's just turn it. He says it will be Kaaba and we will go there. But let's just imagine God changes the principle and lands him here. Which center is he going to go? And won't you ask yourself, why not our center? But why do you have a center? What efforts have we taken as Shia to unite? And yes, the Marja says, keep your language. And yes, first generation, we will still keep our language. Second generation, we'll still keep our language. But there will become a time English will be the language. But what have we done to unite ourselves under one umbrella as Shia rather than Irani Shia, Pakistani Shia, Afghani Shia, African Shia, Arab Shia? Nothing. And tell me if I'm wrong. I want that response. Do we do anything? We don't. But the idea is Imam is going to come and want us all together, not want us indifferent. And yes, then we do things in English. Of course, we have du'as and everything in Arabic, so that's the level there is equal. There's no dua in Farsi. Maybe the Arabs have the upper hand. But as far as khutubat is concerned, it can be in English. But there is no effort in that. We don't. And also, do we feel when, let's say, we have a Khoja mosque and an Iranian or Pakistani come, do we have that feeling of saying, they're here? If you have that feeling, something is wrong. Right? Because they are Shia. They have the right to be there. It's not like they are not Shia. The center is for Shia, it's not the center for a certain nationality. So these are expectations we create. I have 5 minutes. And these are expectations. There are many other expectations. This is just one example I'm creating, which is obvious. There are other expectations we might create. We have to break those expectations. As far as we can consider what the Imam is going to do, and we have an expectation that goes against that concept, that expectation has to be broken. Otherwise, we are going to reject his ways. In what way? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. See, when it was the Prophet, people's expectations were always broken by the revelation that was coming in. As soon as the revelation come in, as soon as someone did something bad, a revelation came in and said, this is bad. They could not reject that. After the Prophet, it was about the Imams. The Imams had no revelation. So you had to trust the Imam. Whatever the Imam said was, quote unquote, in line with the revelation. But people did not have that amount of trust to say that is in line with revelation and that is like revelation. And so they would take their expectation to be above that of the Imam and their decisions to be above that of the Imam. I'm going to give you an example from the Holy Quran of a very compressed sort of life. And we can compare that life to maybe what we would experience. A lot of times when you read the Quran, we are astonished at how Bani Israel acted. And the Bani Israel, in terms of the life of the times of Nabi Musa, gets the most real estate in Quran. The amount of area that is covered by the story of Nabi Musa is more than anybody else. But if you take a compressed version of Nabi Musa, this is how it happens. Nabi Musa's birth was hidden. Compare yourself to the Imam, okay? This is what I draw. It is Nabi Musa's birth was hidden. He came, he was brought up in another house. He was not known as Musa by his people, except for very few people, which was his family. All of the Bani Israel, the one he wanted to save, did not know Musa was there. But he grew up to a certain age. Then the incident happened where he helped the person from the Bani Israel. He got threatened and felt fear and he left. Now they still don't know, but his deliverance because he came for deliverance of the Bani Israel. And we are waiting for the deliverance of ourselves from our Imam. He left Madian, now farther away from his people. For a number of years he was in Madian. And then he leaves to come back and gets the order now deliver the message to Musa and tell them you want to deliver the Bani Israel. Or change him or remove the people from and deliver the Bani Israel. So he goes. And he comes back and he makes himself known. It doesn't end there, but the Bani Israel get into more tests, which inshallah we'll cover tomorrow, that when the Imam comes, we should not expect, let's see what we expect tomorrow. Then the Imam, Nabi Musa comes back and the Bani Israel go through a number of tests where Fir'aun does not let them go. He finally gets them out, moves them towards another land. In that path, he shows them miracles and marvels. But he separates them for about 40 days and they turn their faith. 40 days, they turn their faith. He comes back, he corrects the situation, he takes them again, punishing all those that turn, or the masters of turning. They reach a point where they are promised land. And they're told, you fight a little bit and go into this land. You know what the Quran says they do? Musa, you go in and fight yourselves with your God. We are going to sit here. Sit, the word is sit. We are going to sit here and wait for you until you win. And then we will enter. What do we expect the Imam to do sometimes when we think of the Imam? Imam will come and make everything okay, and we will just sit there and accept it. Will it be that? Or will we struggle and go through tests, and we will have to even shed our blood in that sake, and then things will be okay? Expectation. When the Imam does that, will we expect it? Oh, did you ask me to do this? And then you have to be ready to do it. Not only not be ready to do it, because if you're not ready to do it, you fail. So the expectation of Bani Israel was Musa is going to come and we are going to get everything. But Musa did not, they had to fight. Although Allah gave them guarantee, go, these people look big, go fight, you will get victory. They said, no, we are going to sit here, you fight. We'll take the results. So we have to think about this, and this is the last statement. On the coming of the Imam, there will be no hijab between the Imam and our properties, our homes, all the actions that we did. His justice system is not going to be the same as other Imams. He is going to apply that knowledge to provide the justice system. Like Nabi Isa, he's going to know everything. And all the Imams, of course, know everything, but he's going to apply that justice. When he comes and tells us, this is not right, you have to lose this house because it was attained in a different way. Are we going to say, oh, Imam, we prayed for you for hundreds of years. Now, after praying for you for all this, now you tell me I can't live in my house, or this is wrong? That statement itself of objecting will be wrong. And so we have to train ourselves to see, in this world, test ourselves here before the Imam comes, before we are tested then, to see if we will be all that ready and loyal to the Imam at the time he comes. And this is when we celebrate the birth of Imams. We have to know this is the justice system that has come. Even Imam Ali, when they called him to his seat, they expected justice, but when he applied justice, they were the first ones to stand up and kill him. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this blessed night that He should give us this heart of accepting the rules of the Imam and the rules of religion and making our expectations